এইভাবে ধ্বংসাত্মক কাজ না করে গণতান্ত্রিক ধারায় যোগ দিক, জনগণের উপর আস্থা রাখুক, বিশ্বাস রাখুক। আমরা কারোর সাথে যুদ্ধ চাই না, আমরা শান্তিতে বাস করতে চাই। কিন্তু আমার দেশকে বহিঃশত্রুর আক্রমণ থেকে রক্ষা করার জন্য বা আমাদের স্বাধীনতা সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষা করার জন্য যে যথাযথ প্রস্তুতি আমাদের থাকে, সেটাই আমাদের সবসময় মনে রাখতে হবে যে আমাদের দেশের স্বাধীনতা সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষায় সদা প্রস্তুত অতন্ত্র প্রহরী হিসেবে আমাদের সশস্ত্র বাহিনী কাজ করবে। পাশাপাশি আমাদের দেশের মানুষের ভাগ্য পরিবর্তনেও তারা যথাযথ অবদান রেখে যাচ্ছেন, সেই জন্য ধন্যবাদ জানাই। আর এটা মনে রাখতে হবে যে মুক্তিযুদ্ধ চলাকালীন সময় আমাদের এই সশস্ত্র বাহিনী গড়ে উঠেছিল, যুদ্ধে আমরা বিজয় অর্জন করেছি। কাজে সেই বিজয়ী জাতি হিসেবে বিশ্ব দরবারে আমরা মাথা উঁচু করে চলতে চাই।
Later, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina exchanged pleasantries with the army officials and their family members, diplomats and other guests. On the occasion of Armed Forces Day, President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina paid rich tributes to the martyred members of armed forces, placing wreaths at Sheikh Onirban at Dhaka Cantonment this morning. At first, President Mohammad Shahabuddin paid rich tribute by placing wreath at Sheikh Onirban. After placing wreath, the President stood in solemn silence for some time and the bugles played the last post. A smartly turned out contingent from 3 services presented state salute. Chiefs of 3 services were present. President Mohammad Shahabuddin signed the visitors' book. Later, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina paid tribute to the martyred members of armed forces by placing wreath at Sheikh Onirban. The Prime Minister stood in solemn silence for some time and the bugles played the last post. A smartly turned out contingent from 3 services presented state salute. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina signed the visitors' book. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has said nothing can be achieved through arson violence, expressing her hope that the BNP Jamaat alliance will come back to their senses to put an end to the anarchy. The Prime Minister was addressing a reception accorded to the Gallantry Award-winning freedom fighters of the armed forces and their heirs at the Army Multipurpose Complex at Dhaka Cantonment, marking the Armed Forces Day this morning. She also presented peacetime awards to the selected members of the armed forces for their outstanding contribution to their respective fields during 2022 to 2023. The Prime Minister said nothing can be achieved through burning people to death. This is wrong. Something can be gained by the power of general people. Working for the people's welfare and staying beside them are other requirements to achieve something, she added. She said the path of arson violence is to be stopped to achieve something, wishing that the BNP Jamaat clique will come back to their senses to stop the arson violence to relieve the countrymen from suffering. The Prime Minister asked the countrymen to remain cautious against any conspiracy hindering Bangladesh's development.
কিভাবে একজন মানুষকে পোড়াতে পারেন, আর আজকে সেই পোড়া মানুষগুলির সেই ক্ষতবিক্ষত দেহ এবং তাদের আত্মচিৎকার, তাদের পরিবার কি অবস্থাটায় আছে, এটাই হচ্ছে সব থেকে দুঃখজনক। এদের চেতনা হোক, সেটাই আমি চাই, যে অন্তত তাদের চেতনা ফিরে আসুক, যে একটা মানুষকে এভাবে পুড়িয়ে মেরে কোনো কিছু অর্জন করা যায় না, এটা ভুল। অর্জন করতে হলে জনগণের শক্তির দরকার হয়, জনগণের পাশে থাকতে হয়, জনগণের কল্যাণ করতে হয়। জনগণের অকল্যাণ করে পুড়িয়ে মেরে কিছু অর্জন করা যায় না। অন্তত এই বিষয়টা যেন যারা এসব করছে তারা বুঝতে পারে, সেটাই আমি বলবো। নানা ধরনের চক্রান্ত ষড়যন্ত্র চলে, যা হোক এগুলি উত্তরণ ঘটিয়েই আমরা এ পর্যন্ত এগোতে পেরেছি। আজকে বাংলাদেশ বিশ্বে উন্নয়নের রোল মডেল হিসেবে স্বীকৃতি পেয়েছে। এটা ধরে রেখেই আমাদের এগিয়ে যেতে হবে উন্নত সমৃদ্ধ সোনার বাংলাদেশ গড়ে তোলা, এবং সেই জন্য সকলের সহযোগিতা কামনা করি।
On the occasion of the Armed Forces Day, Chief of Army Staff General S.M. Shofiuddin Ahmed, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Mohammad Nazmul Hassan, and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal Sheikh Abdul Hannan paid a courtesy call on President Mohammad Shahabuddin at Bongo Bhavan this evening. Later at a briefing, President's Press Secretary Mohammad Jainal Abidin said that during the meeting, the chiefs of the three services apprised the President of various activities of their respective forces. President Mohammad Shahabuddin greeted the members of the armed forces on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day. Highlighting the glorious role of the armed forces in the liberation war, the President said that the members of the armed forces are playing important role in building the nation and establishing peace in the international arena. President Mohammad Shahabuddin expressed hope that the members of armed forces would continue their efforts for the development of the country in the days to come. Secretaries to the President were present. The Election Commission has extended the last date of submitting applications for foreign observers from November 21 to December 7 for being enlisted to observe the 12th National Parliament election. Any organization or person can collect an application form from the Election Commission website and submit it within the scheduled date following the International Observer Guidelines. Additional Secretary of the Election Commission, Ashok Kumar Devnath, said this at a press conference at the Election Bhavan in the capital today. He said the date of enlistment has been extended for the foreign observers and journalists responding to their applications. The EC Additional Secretary said a total of 12 countries and 4 organizations have so far submitted their applications for being enlisted as observer. He said 11 members of the African Electoral, 4 from the South Asian Development Forum, 5 from IRI and 4 from European Union have confirmed their participation in the upcoming parliament election as observers. Different political parties kept selling nomination papers today targeting the 12th parliamentary election. Marking the occasion, leaders and activists from across the country thronged the respective offices of the parties. However, Bangladesh Awami League ended selling and submission of nomination papers today. Nomination form of Awami League President and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for Gopalganj 3 constituency was submitted at the party's central office on 23 Bangabandhu Avenue today. Leaders of Awami League Gopalganj District Unit, Tungipara and Kotalipara Upazila units were present during the submission of nomination papers. Aspirant candidates from different constituencies of the country crowded at Awami League's central office on 23 Bangabandhu Avenue even before 10 a.m. on the last day of collection and submission of nomination paper. They collected nomination papers from 10 booths designated for 8 divisions. Awami League central leaders, present members of parliament, old and young leaders of the party collected and submitted nomination papers. Briefing journalists in the evening after concluding the selling of nomination forms, Awami League Office Secretary Barrister Biplab Borua said a total of 3,362 nomination forms were sold in last 4 days. Among those, 3,241 forms were collected directly from the party office, while 1,021 forms were collected online, he added.
গত 4 দিনে বাংলাদেশ আওয়ামী লীগের মনোনয়ন ফর্ম সংগ্রহ করেছে সর্বমোট 3,362 জন। 3,362 জন। তার মধ্যে অফলাইনে সংগ্রহ করেছে সরাসরি এসে 3,241 জন এবং অনলাইনে সংগ্রহ করেছে 121 জন। আমরা সর্বমোট বিনিময় মূল্য আমাদের দল আয় করেছে 16 কোটি 81 লক্ষ টাকা। 16 কোটি 81 লক্ষ টাকা।
Meanwhile, targeting the 12th parliamentary election, Jatiyo Party sold nomination papers from its Bonani office today for the second day. The sale of nomination papers and submission will continue till November 23 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. On the other hand, Jatiyo Samajtantrik Dol Jashod sold nomination papers today for the last day. Leaders of the party collected nomination papers from the party's central office on Bangabandhu Avenue in the capital. At the same time, they also submitted their forms. Meanwhile, targeting the 12th parliamentary election, Trinamool BNP sold nomination papers today for the 4th day. Secretary General of the party, Advocate Taimur Alam Khondokar, collected nomination form for Naranganj 1 constituency today. Trinamool BNP will sell nomination papers till November 25. Information and Broadcasting Minister and Awami League Joint General Secretary Dr. Hassan Mahmud said, ahead of the 12th parliamentary pause, there will be evil efforts to spread various types of propaganda, so the mainstream mass media has to be vocal against such evil forces. He said this after a meeting with Propaganda Resistance Cell and Facts-Checking Committee of the Press Information Department at the Secretariat today.
বিদেশ থেকে এই ধরনের যে গুজব ছড়ানো হয় সেগুলোর ব্যাপারে আমরা ওয়াকিবহাল। আপনারা দেখেছেন আগের তুলনায় সেটি কমেছে এবং দুঃখজনক বিষয় হচ্ছে এই গুজব ছড়ানোর জন্য বিএনপি এবং জামাত তাদেরকে নিয়মিত পয়সা দেন। দে আর পেইড এজেন্ট এবং পয়সা না দেওয়ার প্রেক্ষিতে বা কম দেওয়ার প্রেক্ষিতে ক্ষোভ প্রকাশ করেছে, সেই অডিও ভাইরাল হয়েছে। তো দেশের বিরুদ্ধে গুজব রটনার জন্য যদি একটি রাজনৈতিক দল গুজব রটনাকারীদের পয়সা দেয়, এর চেয়ে দুঃখজনক আর কিছু হতে পারে না। তা আমরা তাদেরকে আইডেন্টিফাই করেছি যারা এই ধরনের গুজব রটায় এবং সংশ্লিষ্ট দেশগুলোর অনেক জায়গায় তাদের ব্যাপারে নোটিফাই করা হয়েছে এবং কোনো কোনো ক্ষেত্রে সেখানে বাংলাদেশি যে ডায়াসপোরা আছে তারা কিন্তু কয়েক জায়গায় মামলাও করেছে। কেউ যদি মনে করে যে বিদেশে বসে বসে গুজব রটাবে আর তিনি ধরাছোঁয়ার বাইরে থাকবেন, সেটি কিন্তু নয় এখন আর। তো এখন নির্বাচন নিয়েও অনেক গুজব ছড়ানোর চেষ্টা করা হবে। তা আমি আপনাদেরকে অনুরোধ জানাই যে এখন গুজব ছড়ানোর অপচেষ্টা হলে সেগুলোর বিরুদ্ধে আগে যেমন আপনারা জাতির প্রয়োজনের নিরিখে এবং যখন জাতি সংকটে ছিল তখন, অর্থাৎ করোনার সময়, তখন যেভাবে আপনারা কাজ করেছেন, এখন নির্বাচনকেও সামনে রেখে আপনারা যাতে কেউ গুজব ছড়াতে না পারে, অপপ্রচার করতে না পারে, সেজন্য আপনারা আগের মতোই সোচ্চার থাকবেন, সেটি আমার প্রত্যাশা।
Responding to a query from journalists, Dr. Hassan Mahmud stressed on the need for publicity of real facts against propaganda on social media.
গুজবটা তো অনলাইনেই ছড়ানো হয় বা সামাজিক যোগাযোগ মাধ্যম, সেটিও ডিজিটাল মাধ্যমেই ছড়ানো হয়। তো ডিজিটাল মাধ্যমে গুজব ছড়ানোর তো ডিজিটাল আইনেই মামলা হবে, কিন্তু সেই মামলা করলে তখন আবার অনেকে বলে, আবার কেউ কেউ চেঁচামেচি করে কেন মামলা হলো। এটি একটি বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ। গ্রেপ্তার করলে তো সেটি নিয়ে আরও বেশি কথাবার্তা হয়, সে যে কি করেছে সেটি তখন ঢাকা পড়ে যায়, তাকে কেন গ্রেপ্তার করা হলো সেটাই মুখ্য হয়ে যায়। এটি একটি বড় চ্যালেঞ্জ। একটা গুজব ছড়ালো, আমি বুঝতে পারছি সেটা গুজব, সেটার কাউন্টার পোস্ট কেউ দেয় না, খুব কম, যে এটি গুজব, এটা ছড়াতে থাকে। এবং এটা যে সত্য নয়, এটা যে আসল ঘটনা নয় বা এটি সর্বৈব মিথ্যা, সেটা নিয়ে কাউন্টার পোস্ট কেউ দেয় না। কিন্তু এটার কাউন্টারে যদি কাউন্টার পোস্ট থাকে তাহলে কিন্তু এই গুজব এভাবে ছড়াবে না। সেটার জন্য জনগণকে আসলে উদ্বুদ্ধ করা প্রয়োজন।
Principal Information Officer Mohammad Shahinur Mia, among others, was present at the press briefing. Welcome back to News at 10, and we move on to international news. U.S. President Joe Biden has indicated a deal could soon be agreed that would involve Hamas releasing hostages from Gaza in exchange for pauses in fighting. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh also said they are approaching a truce agreement with Israel after weeks of the war in the Gaza Strip. Haniyeh said this in a statement which gave no more details, but a Hamas official told that negotiations were centered on how long the ceasefire would last, arrangements for delivery of aid into Gaza, and the exchange of Israeli captives held by Hamas for Palestinian prisoners in Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli air attacks on Gaza continued through the night, hitting Burej refugee camp, Rafah and Gaza City, among other areas. At least 17 people have been killed in an Israeli strike on the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip. An earlier Israeli attack at Indonesian hospital killed at least 12 people. More than 13,300 have been killed in Gaza since October 7. In Israel, the official death toll from Hamas's attack stands at about 1,200. Leaders of the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, group of emerging economies, are attending a virtual summit on the war. Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and the United Arab Emirates, who will join the bloc in January 2024, are also attending the meeting that was called by South Africa. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for an international peace conference and said there can be no sustainable peace without a just solution to the question of Palestine. Russian President Vladimir Putin called for a political solution to the conflict in which the bloc would take part and help reach. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman called on countries to stop exporting arms to Israel. The U.S. has announced a new military aid package for Ukraine worth $100 million. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made the announcement as he made a surprise visit to Kyiv yesterday. The new aid package includes anti-tank weapons, air defense interceptors, and an additional high-mobility artillery rocket system, HIMARS. Austin, on his first trip to Kyiv since April 2022, met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as well as Defense Minister Rustem Umerov and Commander-in-Chief General Valery Zaluzhny on Monday and promised the long-term support of the United States. Meanwhile, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius arrived in Kyiv today for an unannounced visit to reaffirm Berlin's backing for Ukraine in its fight against Russia's troops. The visit comes as fighting has been bogged down in the east of the country around ruined towns such as Bakhmut and Advika, although Ukraine has recently reported some success in the southern Kherson region where it has established a foothold on the east bank of the Dnipro River and in the Black Sea. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol and First Lady Kim Kyung-hee begin their three-day trip to the UK today, with King Charles III hosting his first state visitors since his coronation. Yoon will receive the full red carpet treatment, attending a state banquet at Buckingham Palace and lunching with the King and his wife Queen Camilla. But it will also be about business, with Yoon and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak set to agree on deepening cooperation and launch negotiations on an upgraded free trade deal. The UK government is keen to strike new deals with countries around the world following its departure from the European Union, particularly with the fast-growing economies in the Indo-Pacific region. Now some other international news in brief. The Red Cross said Monday that its president had traveled to Qatar to meet with Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh to advance humanitarian issues related to the armed conflict in Israel and Gaza.
As mediators in the conflict, the ICRC has been providing aid to Gaza.
North Korea has fired what it claims is a military spy satellite southwards, Seoul's military said today, hours after Japan confirmed that Pyongyang had warned it of an imminent launch.
He said
41 Indian workers trapped in a collapsed road tunnel for 10 days were seen alive on camera for the first time Tuesday as workers attempted to create a new passageway to free them.
Had complained of dysentery. Authorities have not said, and those near the exit managed to escape the tunnel.
A volcanic eruption on a remote island of Papua New Guinea has pushed some residents to begin evacuating and the island's airport to cancel flights. Ulawun, the South Pacific nation's most active volcano, spewed smoke up to 15 kilometers in the air on Monday afternoon in its first significant blow-up in years. The James Webb Space Telescope has looked into the heart of the Milky Way galaxy, unveiling new features and mysteries within the chaotic region that could help astronomers unravel more details about the early universe. Coming back to national news, dengue situation is not an improving trend in Bangladesh as 8 died during the last 24 hours. A press release of the Directorate General of Health Services said among the dead, 5 were in Dhaka and 3 were outside Dhaka. 1,084 dengue patients were admitted to different hospitals across the country during the last 24 hours. Among them, 221 dengue patients were hospitalized in Dhaka city and 863 patients outside Dhaka. Now some weather updates. Met Office in its weather forecast till 6 p.m. tomorrow said weather may remain mainly dry with temporary partly cloudy sky over the country, having chance of light rain or drizzle at 1 or 2 places over Borishal and Chattogram divisions. Night temperature may fall by 1 to 3 degrees Celsius and day temperature may fall slightly over the country. Now news on sports. Bangladesh drew 1-1 with Lebanon in the match of second round of 2026 FIFA World Cup football qualifiers. Held at Boshuntara Kings Arena in the capital today, the first half of the match ended goalless. Majid Usman gave Lebanon the lead in the 67th minute of the match. Morsaleen scored the equalizer for Bangladesh in the 72nd minute. To end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Some people want to assume power over dead bodies, which is very inhuman, says Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. President and Prime Minister pay rich tributes to martyred members of armed forces on the occasion of Armed Forces Day. Awami League ends selling of party nomination paper while other political parties continue selling for the forthcoming 12th parliamentary election. Mainstream mass media has to be vocal against spreading propaganda ahead of the 12th parliamentary election, says Dr. Hassan Mahmood. Palestine and Israel close to Gaza truce agreement as death toll of Palestinians crosses 13,300. And Bangladesh secure 1-1 draw against Lebanon to earn their first point in the second round of FIFA World Cup qualifier. That's all from the newsroom for the moment. Thank you for staying with us. We invite you to watch our 11:30 Bangla News. We also request you to keep your homestead clean and stay safe from dengue. Khuda Hafiz.